I've got a lot of slides, so I'm going to try to go through it relatively quickly and leave a lot of time at the back end for the questions. Um, uh, I'm going to go through kind of the itinerary of my time over there, um, and um, and then I'm not going to necessarily present the order of the countries that I went in, but um, uh, and I'm not going to go in detail on a couple of one country there too. So, um, first of all, just in terms of the Great Commission is the calling for us, and started a long time ago for me, and I'm so glad I'm involved here. Um, it was 15 days, 3 countries, Kenya, which I had not been had not been to before. Tanzania had not been to. Zambia had gone with Jack 8 years ago with Steve and Jack from that standpoint. So that was a return from that standpoint. And I'll talk a little bit about the comparisons between that trip and this trip. The travel for those 15 days, a lot of time on airplanes to get there, and then in between the countries, and then the return home. 28 hours from here to Stillwater to when I got to Nairobi and into the hotel that I was there from that standpoint. Went from Oklahoma City to Atlanta, Atlanta to Amsterdam, Netherlands, and then into Nairobi. And I had to clear customs, which was a couple extra hours, because I had three large plastic totes of caps and gowns that was taken for the graduation ceremony from that standpoint. So you can see in that picture up in the top left, those big black totes that we were taking through that. The other trip was from to Namwianga, where Jack's work has been from Nairobi. That took 22 hours to get there. It was supposed to be 14. But when we landed, no problems with the planes, but from the trip to Lusaka, the capital where I landed on the plane, to Namwianga, it was supposed to be 6 hours, but because of an accident on the highway where we got rear-ended, that prolonged the trip to get home. But Lord was watching over us. We were safe in the accident, but it prolonged there, so I got there at 4:30 in the morning when I was supposed to be there that evening. On the trip from Zambia to Tanzania was another 25 hours just to get there, and there's no direct flights that I could have taken because I was on a certain itinerary that I wanted to be there from that standpoint. So I had to arrange flights that way, and I was going from Zambia back up to Kenya and then down to Tanzania again, as an example. Then on the way home from the city I was in, visiting family in Tanzania, that was an extra flight back. So it wasn't the 28 hours back, it was added an additional leg and a layover. So it was 44 hours from when I left the city in Tanzania before I got to Stillwater. So just to give you a flavor of how those 15 days were spent, a lot of it was travel. Just a quick plug. I'm not going to go into depth about this, but just a teaser about the reason I went to Tanzania was I have a cousin and his wife works for APAPO, a nonprofit agency, and that agency trains rats to detect tuberculosis and landmines in third world countries, and tremendous work that they're doing to impact lives through that APAPO. So if you want to hear more about rats, I talked to Vanessa and told that story, showed her some pictures this morning. She said, no way. But if you want to hear more about that, let me know. We can go to dinner and talk more about that. Now talking about African missions and history here from Stillwater, try to capture the history here from different names that many of you may be familiar with. Back in the 50s and 60s, Alexander Classen, Southern Rhodesia, Joe and Polly Watson in South Africa, which is now, the organization is the Southern Africa Bible School. Significant organization making an impact there. Warren Kern, which you'll hear about from Jack in Namwianga. James and Rita Carley, medical missions in Cameroon. Mike and Julie Kelly, medical missions in Cameroon. Randy Beckloff in Nairobi, and Melinda in Kenya. And of course, Jack and Joanne, you'll hear about how that began, took root. Jim and Laura Reppert was at the heart of in the start of Nairobi Great Commission School, which I'll talk a lot more about tonight. Tara Wells, Milton and Faye Wells' daughter, in Kenya. And then Jack and Steve and I went in 2018 on the water wells that we did there. And then Mike Query went to support the Nairobi Great Commission School graduation and also a Namwianga visit, 2019, and then mine. And now we're looking for others who get interested, and who's going to get called next is really what we're hoping that this will bring light to those that have an interest and get a calling. Again, Africa is a continent, not a country. I'm not sure, Benny and others, Samuel, we have a couple students here, right, from Nigeria and Ghana, Benedicta from Ghana and Elizabeth, and then Nigeria, Samuel and Joshua. So 4 times the population of North America. And life expectancy is actually, since I updated these slides for this presentation, and in 3 years, actually, Zambia and Kenya has actually increased. So that's a good sign that I was seeing in at least the statistics. It increased by about 2 years, I believe. It was underneath 60, it's 59, I believe. I updated that. And U.S. actually dropped from that standpoint. So that was a little bit of eye-opener for me there. The facts still remain in terms of water access is still an issue in the rural areas in Africa. And many children are dying due to waterborne illnesses and cleanliness and that. And so that is one of the main human issues to try to address in there, along with spreading the good news. So from Nairobi Great Commission Training College, that's kind of was a rebranding that they've did this past year. Many of us have referred it to Nairobi Great Commission School. But they are rebranding it a little bit, and I'll tell you a little bit more reason why on subsequent slides from that standpoint. It was, again, established in 1988 with Brentwood Hills, Tennessee, and University Church of Christ in Fresno, California, with Stillwater, and Jim and Laura Ruppert living in Kenya, Nairobi there. The school actually opened in 1990. With the vision to train and equip African leaders in both Bible and missions work. And so the model there is to bring students to Nairobi, Kenya on campus from many different countries, and then teach them the Bible, and then they go back to their homeland and plant churches. Now they have established extension centers. They have grown over the years, and they have extension centers within Kenya at outlying larger cities there that also bring that and make that and expand the number of students that they can impact. What they also have established over the recent years, last 5 to 8 years, is partnerships. And that was really what impressed me the most when I was over there. And you'll see a couple slides here in a moment. But they're not on their own. They're not on an island. They're working truly with the government of Zambia, or Kenya, Healing Hands International, which is based out of Nashville, Tennessee, Lipscomb University, that sends a lot of professors over there to equip and teach there. And then there's also a partnership, you'll see another slide here, Daystar University from that standpoint. They have a Kenyan board of directors, 9 board of directors, which I got to meet on that trip. We went to dinner and just also had a half-day meeting with them about what their accomplishments have been, what their vision for the future is, and what their desired support they would like to see from the U.S. from that standpoint. 9 staff members, and this year they had 43 students in Nairobi on campus. George Matanga is the principal. He's been the principal for about 5 years now. Jacob Randick is the extensions director. So those extension centers outside of Nairobi and those other cities like Mombasa, that he's over that and runs those particular extension centers. Mustafa and Rose, they have offices there on campus in the building. Mustafa is the registrar, and he was a significant person involved in the graduation ceremony when I was over there on December 1st. And Tom and Perez. Tom is the facilities manager and coordinator for missions locally within Nairobi. There's many churches locally established in Nairobi, and he works with them in terms of each of them trying to grow their congregations from that standpoint. Jane, she knows how to cook. She does a really good job taking care of you when you're over there, and maintains that for the students that are there on a daily basis. John is our accountant and prepares the monthly reports that we receive here and distribute those here on our missions committee. From that standpoint, very well detailed, and a degree in accounting from that standpoint. Michael Matai, he's been the board chair for decades, a couple decades. He's actually been here to Stillwater. He came here, I think, in 2016. George and Susie, she actually, her connection here to Stillwater is she was one of the leaders at Rainbow Church of Christ. And so we actually, you'll see some pictures. I have video. I haven't, if anybody's interested afterwards, let me know. I'll get you a folder of all of that, pictures and video that was able to go and see from that standpoint. She was integral in that Rainbow Church of Christ. Larry Conway, he lives in Kenya, he's originally from Texas, but he lives there and teaches classes at Nairobi Great Commission School. Matthews, Moody, and Jane are both board members there. And Jane also has connections to the Rainbow Church of Christ. Again, the impact that they're making is over 2,000 different churches in Kenya and East Africa region have been planted since 1990. Significant, and again, we're talking Uganda, Tanzania, South Sudan, and actually when I was in Namwianga, went to the church service at Namwianga when I arrived there. The young preacher that day was actually a man that was teaching math, college level math at Namwianga. But he has a calling that once he knew about Nairobi Great Commission School, and when I was introduced, they told the congregation that I was coming from there. So he immediately approached me and wanted a connection. So he's already connected to George now and figuring out the plan on how he can go in that direction. Again, the impact that they're making here. Healing Hands International. That was, for me, with making this trip, it's connected the dots a lot more in terms of the names of the people that are working in Kenya, and the name that I knew from Jack's work in Namwianga, a gentleman named Thomas, who also works for Healing Hands, but in Zambia, and then Dr. Ebenezer Umoff in Kenya. They both knew each other and had just visited with one another 4 weeks prior to my visit. And so we immediately kind of had those connections, and we're hopeful that we're able to bring those two gentlemen to the U.S. this summer, along with a visit by George and Michael Matai. Daystar University, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. This partnership really formed when COVID hit. And Nairobi Great Commission School got seriously impacted with its ability to continue their learning practices. If you remember, just like here in the US, a lot of things had to move to online platforms. Well, Nairobi Great Commission School wasn't prepared for that type of, but they with the local university there in Nairobi, they were able to partner and implement really quickly an online platform to deliver and continue the work for those students to maintain their schedule of achieving their degree. So that's how that established, and now they're just continuing to build on that momentum by workshops, having conferences locally at their place, or even at right on campus of where they're at. So they'll use their university teachers who are, let's say family relationships conference type of thing. They'll promote that and teach their students those types of principles in a conference room setting. This is just, again, the examples of the teachers and the students up in the top right. Again, some of the staff members, top left. Baptisms occurring, I get frequently, almost every week, pictures of additional baptisms that are happening at different churches from that standpoint. This was on graduation day, December 1st, and I'm not sure Mike's here, but when Mike told me about this when he went, also it was kind of the impact. What they do, their graduation ceremony is advertised from 9 a.m. locally to 1 p.m. in the afternoon, so 4-hour ceremony. This actually happens an hour before it. So it's really a 5-hour ceremony. But what they're doing is each of the students that are graduating have had a mentor through their time of 2 years that they've been pursuing their degree. And as a capstone, that mentor does a feet washing. So it's pretty cool. It's in the courtyard, and there are tents on the perimeter of the courtyard. It is summertime there in December. Fortunately, the temperature was pretty moderate for that December 1st, but there has been hotter graduation ceremonies. And families are on these side, and this side, the students are back here, and then the leaders of that are speaking, guest speakers and leaders, the board members, etc., are on this looking out. These are the board members in that particular ceremony. These are distinct honors students that are graduating and being honored for their distinction and their grades that they achieved. And another part of the ceremony is Healing Hands has established a relationship and does fundraising to achieve this every graduation year, is the donation of bicycles for the preachers. And so there is a known reputation from Nairobi Great Commission School that if you see these men on bicycles, that they're from Nairobi Great Commission School and preachers from that standpoint. Had a couple different singing groups and that were there. That was a teen group, and then there was a university college student group that performed. Here's some of the gentlemen. I went with two gentlemen from Edmond Memorial Road. John Wilgus on the right here, top. He is actually the missions director at Edmond Memorial Road. He's also a graduate here from Stillwater High in '83. And he's also executive director of Oklahoma Dental Foundation. And you may remember the event that they had at Payne County Expo Center. He led that free dental clinic, and they're doing one, I think, this weekend in Lawton, or next weekend. Brian Mock also is at Edmond Memorial Road, and he is specifically the Kenyan and African missions contact for Edmond Memorial Road. Michael Mutai is, again, the board president. Matthews Moody is a board member. Now, Carla Dean Thompson, she's got connections here to Stillwater as well. She lives in Kenya, in country, and does a lot of, she's a teacher of English there. And her father was the first Church of Christ preacher in Ethiopia, and her grandfather has a connection here to Stillwater Church of Christ. I believe he was also potentially a preacher. That's why I want to go back and look at the 100-day. I think we had a listing of some of those. I want to go back and check what year, time period that was. So there's some connections there that Carla Dean has. And actually, when I was helping Ellis today with Facebook Live, she actually popped up and was live streaming watching the services today. So we've got a couple of others like that since my trip. They started joining in live streaming. Okay, here's, sorry about the formatting. when I downloaded it here, the pictures are getting reoriented a little bit. But this is the Rainbow Church of Christ. Okay, this is what it's branded like now, and it is in an area of Nairobi that is not a good part of town anymore from that standpoint. But you can see up here, Rainbow got cut off a little bit, but Rainbow Medical Clinic and Laboratory Services here. This is a picture of the sanctuary, looking in the middle of it, and it's kind of like an auditorium. You can see the seats here, scaling up, kind of like a movie theater. And they do have services there, but it's probably less than 25 people now. They would like to grow it back. But it's a challenge in the area that they're located at, based upon the surroundings that are there. So I've heard so many stories, from it before, and I've got video also. That if anybody wants to see some of those stories, it's the stories from their viewpoint. From that standpoint. The first day, that the graduation was my last day there, that Friday. I arrived on late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, and the full day Wednesday morning we went out to a rural area, about 2.5, 3 hours east of Nairobi, into the hills, mountains area, and Healing Hands Partnership, government representatives from Kenya and local areas, other preachers from the local area where this church was being opened and dedicated for were there, and probably you can see there it's close to over 100 people there that are going to become new members of that church. And their average, we asked the question about what's the average distance that a person would be willing to walk, because that's their means of transportation to get there to a church. And about 1.5 miles is what their radius around that church that they plant. So Healing Hands was distributing food there. They bring that. They also, Healing Hands fills the role of equipping the preacher and the leaders of that church with the leadership skills and the agricultural skills to be able to produce a farm and a community type farm type agriculture, so they can help one another and maintain nutrition. This particular thing, part of the ceremony, again, another 4-hour ceremony there. After the ceremony came out, and they honored us as guests with a tree planting from that standpoint. And I've already gotten pictures since that time showing me how fast the tree is planting or growing from that standpoint. Again, this was out in a very rural, rugged location, and I wouldn't even say a village because there was no stores, no nothing from that standpoint. What the central point from this point forward will be that church from that standpoint. One other event that we were, after the graduation on Friday, one of the chair of the alumni group from Nairobi, they just established this, Simon Churcher, That's his family there. His brother, he has got two brothers, his wife, and then his children. They hosted us for a meal and wanted to talk through what their vision was for the alumni, because now that was the 22nd graduating class. So there is a number of preachers that have been planted in many different countries, and they're trying to establish what their alumni can do for one another and help sustain one another as they go through ups and the good things and the struggles that they have. One thing that when we were talking through that conversation was I think about Red River encampment, things like that we naturally happen. Don't have that. So that Cabiria is the largest slum by population in Africa, and it's quite extraordinary from that standpoint. And it's not too far from Rainbow Church of Christ. So an opportunity. I'm going to go for the sake of time. I'm going to send out the link to I got the ability to go to right there. When the good thing about going to Nairobi also is the world's largest national park in the city. It's in the city's district, but you can go on a safari, and they have all 5 of the big animals available to see at that safari. And we went out. They took the church, Great Commission School van, and with our driver in their van, not a 4-wheel drive equipped. So there was a couple spots there, and I thought, are we going to get back or not? But it was neat. It was cool. We saw a giraffe. We saw 2 lions, female lions, zebras everywhere, monkeys, things like that. But I have a whole photo album there that I can put the link out, and you guys can go through that. Again, just to kind of wrap up, we just got a couple slides, and then we'll move into Zambia. Last year we had 2 joint video calls. We started those calls during COVID, and we continue to do that. The next one actually is this month at February 27th. We have one for the churches, U.S. churches, on the 20th. If you guys, anybody interested in participating, let me know. I'll get you the invitation. You can just learn and meet the people that are at Nairobi, the board members, a couple of the staff members, and then the U.S. churches, Brentwood, Fresno, and Memorial Road. Healing Hands International had a national conference in Nairobi, so all the different African leaders, including Thomas, who I mentioned in Zambia, went to Nairobi in September. And of course, the December graduation. So looking this year and beyond, the goals, and I've talked about this at the past 2 Octobers, is what they're very located in Nairobi in from a land location, very attractive appeal. Back to Nairobi National Park, and right across the road is a giraffe center. And many people from all over the world come to that giraffe center for tourism. However, that also makes it challenging when they want to do conferences on their campus and from that standpoint. So their vision is to, on their land, to build a guest house and conference room center that will enable them to bring people from Europe and in from Africa more strategically and bring that together. There's already at Memorial Road has a family willing to participate in that project, and that's what these conference calls this month are going to be talking more about. Along with that project is this Zambia or Kenyan government is requiring them a security perimeter wall with the expansion that they're doing there. Right now, over the years, our funding for them has been flat, and we haven't necessarily increased that contribution out of the ratio. And they are been, just like us in the U.S., been hit with inflation. They have been also. So those are some of the prayer requests in terms of, as we're considering our pledges into the mission contribution, those are the things that we would like to put out there. Also this summer, Principal George has had an extraordinary, well over a year, probably almost now going on 2-year wait, just to get a visa appointment with the U.S. Embassy to get applied and go through the application process there in interview to get that done and get that approval done. That's been scheduled now. He's on May. And we're hopeful that that approval will be granted, and then they will be able to come here this summer. And in this conference calls that we're talking about, trying to identify an event in June or July that might be able to bring the churches together at a good event from that standpoint, that they might be able to meet a lot of leaders. Healing Hands International, the leaders that had that national conference in September of last year, bringing maybe 1 or 2 of them over at that same time. So we could also do some strategic discussion with the Nashville leaders and here with the U.S. churches. Also, again, traditionally that graduation ceremony has always been the Friday after Thanksgiving or Saturday after Thanksgiving here. So it's been very difficult for us to find willing members to give that time period up to be able to go visit and be there for that graduation. So we've been talking about that with them, and just like this year, it was the weekend after, so that helped. So this is they've already had an architectural design and gone a long way in getting the put in a position to really start digging dirt. And that they've had many different concepts, and that's been the concept that their board members have approved moving forward. So opportunities to participate, doing lectureships or teaching, or if you're a student, doing an intern over there. We have many different people from Texas that go over there to do 1-week seminars. Online teaching, or like Let's Start Talking, was discussed with them over there in terms of English, teaching them English. And they also mentioned using technology like Teams or WebEx, things like that, to connect with one another easier. Then you don't have to make the trip over. And then sponsored student scholarships. Memorial Road just provided a significant donation in December to help with that scholarship, so that's been fulfilled. And just, they really, really do appreciate establishing a relationship. WhatsApp is, a commonly used means to communicate, video calls from that standpoint. So All right. So I just mentioned previously the draft center, if you were able to go. Again, it's right across the street. The Nairobi National Park. There's also, the animals that I talked about from that standpoint, and then you could also learn some Swahili to go with it. Okay, I'm going to move into Zambia, and I'm going to ask Jack to come on up here. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Turn the light back on, please. Yeah, thank you. Brian asked me to tell you in 5 minutes how Joanne and I got started. I laid awake at night trying to figure out what I could say and how I could do that, and I finally decided I'll write it out and read it. My intention is to read it, and I can read it in almost 5 minutes, but I may add a couple of little things. But we're on time, I think, for now. But this is our story, Jack and Joanne and Namwionga. First, let me see how many people were here in 1974. You can count them all on one hand. Okay. In 1974-75, James Carley made an announcement that Orrin Kern was going to Zambia and we were going to sponsor him. James Carley was the leader of the mission ministry at that time. I asked Joanne who was Orrin and where was Zambia. It turned out we knew Orrin, not very well, and Joanne had been involved with sending care packages to Zambia in Wisconsin, where we came from before that, but we didn't know that either. Over the next 12 years, we got to know Orrin and Namwionga. We told Orrin we would like to do what he was doing someday. Orrin told Phil Watson, who was the chairman of the mission board for Namwionga Christian. There was a nurse and a teacher in Stillwater that wanted to go to Africa. Phil called Joanne. Joanne set her call to the mission field cable of the telephone. Jack started dreaming. It turned out that Namwionga Mission needed a nurse badly. They normally did not recruit short-time workers, but they considered Joanne because we might go back after retirement. Also, we were to pay our own way. We started planning. The mission took Jack because they wanted Joanne. Jack would teach math and look for other projects. The initial plan was for a sabbatical leave for 1 year for Jack. The dean turned this down. He said it looked like we were more interested in church work and the church would pay for it. We started trying to raise money. We only got $2,000. The next thing to happen was a call from James to Joanne. He asked her if she was committed and really wanted to go. She said she didn't want to ask for money. James said, no problem, the money will come. James got 2 grants for us for $12,000 each. One grant required matching funds from our church. This was approved and the date was set for August 1987. We were to stay for 1 year. We made our plans, packed our bags, left our grown kids in our house, and flew out of Oklahoma City. Our kids took us to the airport. As we took off, Joanne cried. Joanne doesn't remember this now. She said the kids were supposed to be leaving, not her. We made it. Joanne was a good and very popular nurse. We had many stories. The mission superintendent, Dr. Hamby, told the government they would send the American nurse home when they gave them a Zambian nurse. It worked. Now they even have a hospital with a Zambian doctor and many Zambian nurses. Their salaries are paid by the government. They have even started a nursing school with the first class graduating this year. Jack's work was not as well planned, and we had to find some of our own projects. It all turned out okay, and it still continues today. There have been many projects. The latest one is another water filtration plant we're calling Maunga Waterworks. Stephanie turned 21 and finished her third year at OSU while we were in Zambia. She was also baptized here by James Carley. They sent us a picture of this. We borrowed $5,000 from my mother so Stephanie could join us in June 1988. We came home together. She worked at the basic school. It was great. It was also a lifesaver for Joanne. 1987-88 was a wonderful year for us. Joanne has made 2 trips back, and Jack has made many. We are still involved. Ryan made another visit last December. I exchanged emails this morning. Life is good. God is great. It's raining at Namwianga. The water is flowing, both physical and spiritual. The purpose of this is, I think, if you see Jack and Joanne could do it, you can do it. It'll work. We can talk forever. Every story leads to another story.
Hey, Jack, there's a couple faces up here that I'll let you tell the story about your relationship with them. Mentioned about this was my second trip to Zambia. I went with Jack and Steve 8 years ago, and I mentioned WhatsApp. 8 years ago, WhatsApp didn't exist. So technology has advanced so much that when I was there in Namwianga, I was able to connect on my phone with WhatsApp, doing a video call back to Jack with his friends that he's kept up with through emails on a daily basis, and a lot of other faces that he doesn't keep up with. From that standpoint, Namwianga, 1932, when it was established in around Colombo, Zambia, by the Churches of Christ, and with the vision to teach that Bible and promote Christianity, a basic elementary school, secondary school, George Benson Christian College, a health clinic, which Jack mentioned about the nurses, Namwianga Farm, a community radio station, and then a number of different orphanages that have been established over the years. Eric's house, Kelly's house, Eleanor's house, and Marjorie's house. Here's a couple of projects. Joey Waterworks, Jack's been involved with from the get-go, from that standpoint, and making improvements over the years. Also a significant fundraising arm that goes into this mission is through Abilene and Searcy, Arkansas. And so there is a significant online effort there to fundraise and do major projects on that mission. And between that 8 years ago when I visit now, it's expansive. I was amazed at how many additional new buildings and new construction is happening right now there. Again, those were projects on girls' dorms, putting metal roofs on those buildings. Here's one of the orphanages, the Haven I got there, that was one of my itinerary goals, was to be able to attend church service on Sunday, December 3rd. And I literally um, arrived at Namwaga at 4:30 in the morning from that 22-hour unplanned event. So my hearing aids were dead, my phone was dead, I had no way to charge them, and I wanted to be there at 9 o'clock. So I prayed that he would awake me at the right time, and he did. Answered prayer from that standpoint. So this location right here is next to the church, and that is going to be the new on-campus nurses students location for nursing students. There's a missions hospital and campus about 2 miles away, but this will be right on campus where the students are. This is again some of the construction. That's the same location. The church is right here, and I'm looking at the other angle, showing kind of where they're organized, getting ready to do that construction. A different building, completely different building, over behind the quadrangle and next to the radio station, and it's going to be more classrooms for the university. Jack, I'll let you talk about individuals here. And
Mr. Wilson Piazillo, he was a teacher when we were there. I could spend the next hour talking about Wilson and stories with that. Next to him is Andrew. He was a student when we were there. I frequently tell people that are concerned over the years when I make this back, all I got to do is get there. I got 2 more boys there. Andrew and Shadrach. This is the entrance to the college. They named that college the George Benson Christian College after the George Benson. He was the one that but there's some kind of a community. Some people I haven't heard that in a long time. I think that probably the word is out why it got to be. There's another picture of Andrew, and this is his icon. He is a student. He was there at He went to that university. Came back to teach. He had an obligation to teach. Stayed 3 years or so. Took a job with the government. Came back to Namionga. All these years, we turned this over to Sandy, the American government. They say well done that. Last year, I don't know where all the money's coming from. I know for 30 years, we didn't have that kind of money to work with. It's not a lot. Only answer I've got to that is started the nursing school and we worked on buildings. Jack was born, Jack was born, he's buried there. Second time he quit, I walked in the office one day and one had already gone back. If he would quit, come home, these people would say, we need you, and you turn around and go back. And his packages they mailed were in the office. What are they doing here? One's already back over there. We turned them around. His family paid most of it, that whole money came through the church. different people from pictures. Hopefully, hopefully mine was first assignment I got. Something about water and after that, I've been different things on clean up the water. When I go back, I would ask them, what would you like me to do? Common answer is clean up that good water. Because it's untreated water in the ditch. That's your source. A little bit of well water, not so dirty water. I couldn't figure out how to do it without money. But the time and money. They got started with money that we got. And we did do that. But they never managed to get that new wastewater down to the story about this is the first week. I need two men. We left Roy Merritt. The only way we're going to solve the water problem is who's going to give us enough money to put it this way? It ain't going to happen. We just got to live with what we've got. A couple years later, two men built it. And you see it. My first assignment on this place was to save the dam. It really worked out. That's Cindy Nickney is the other one. Just like the dam in Queens. Had a good discovery on it. The story is about 50 years ago, more than 50 years ago, missionaries had moved to the island of Honolulu. When they moved, they took the windmill and water with them. And things, rough soil, all from house building, everything, no water for the past 50 years. I like to say, men and women, water back in there. This year, what is we had a lot of help along the way. But we started it, and we was on pipe and stuff, took that water back in. Yeah, you ever ask questions? Ryan told me he wanted more information. Since he was there, I got about 50 or 60. 2 o'clock. This lake, all the others, are they killing? Are they overflowing now? I was disappointed. The new one was not. This one had it to a lake even in the lake. The rains are always up and down.
I have videos. When I was doing the WhatsApp video calls to Jack, then I would ask Andrew to give a history about that specific lake in about 2 to 3 minute video snippets that I'm able to compile that and bring that back to Jack as a report and things like that. But at that time, the narrative was we need to be praying for rain. But since that time, just a little over a month now, the rains have come like Jack mentioned, so it can flip on a dime.
This one is cool now. All that glass on it.
Now, I was hoping to have the comparison pictures to show. Here's there's only one more slide after this, so Roy and Kathy, can you tell a little bit about their background and history?
About him is he found several girls that wanted to die. He married.
although I was able to attend Sunday night services, that he would prepared slides, PowerPoint slides for it. I had a slide there of his names of Jesus, and he had spent hours, I don't know how many hours of time preparing these slides. And I was talking with one of the church members afterwards, and they were just amazed at how well the word and the inspiration he delivers to his members out there in that church. And they were wanting to get a copy of those slides, things like that. It was just amazing.
This is Kathy here. Andrew and Kathy. Kathy had been married before that one. Living alone and one child. But he always used to Stephanie. This thing, Simon, his family, that's a news press. The news press here had a program, you get your picture with the news press someplace in the world. Stephanie brought one with her when she came, and we went out to Simon's village. He was our councilman. Joanne loved that old man. She don't remember him now. We were eating. It won't be baptized today. Sure enough. Yeah. He's been working for me. This Sunday was baptized. He hadn't studied the Bible with him. We ate, Simon said, they won't ate with us. That's what they did.
That's the last slide. Stephanie slipped me that picture last night. So again, yeah. Any additional questions?
So, we should now correctly call it Nairobi Trade Commission College.
Training college, yeah. The school has been replaced with Training College.
Okay.
Just a branding thing, really more in country there, from that standpoint of trying to recruit students. The other part of that recruiting with that guest house will give them the flexibility that they, in their recruiting, they get a lot of no's because young men there are also seeking family marriage. And so this would allow and enable a young married man to pursue his 2-year Bible training there in basically that guest house on campus too.
I think I heard you say earlier that worship service is given around 23 or so. And is that probably due to the location?
I'm sorry, say that again, I'm sorry.
Did I understand you to say that Sunday morning worship service is like 23 or so, 25?
At Rainbow.
Oh.
At Rainbow.
Has to do with the surrounding community?
Yeah, it's commercialized. The actual 2 blocks where Rainbow is, it's all commercialized. But then around that commercialization is also not good living conditions, kind of similar to that slum location there. Yeah. So that kind of tempers that. Oh, they've resolved. They got that resolved in 2023. They established the location where they're at currently, right across from the Giraffe Center, in 1996. So about 6 years after 1990, from that standpoint. And in their office locations, they have all the different graduating class pictures up in terms of the 22 classes that have graduated, and they hold those in high regard. Me, for my hearing aid.
Okay.
Sorry.
First of all,
Yeah. 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 No. Very good. Very good questions. Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. Okay. I didn't. Can you repeat that last one? Just the last one. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Ran into the back of his car.
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, yep, exactly. Right. So for Zambia and Kenya, the age is right now, it has since 2018, 3 years ago when I was last updated and reported those facts, it's actually, the age has increased from 59 to 60, just under 62, from that standpoint. So the lifespan is actually increasing. In terms of the basic education that the countries, both Kenya and Zambia and Tanzania for that matter, the basic free education that is available to the families are from basic school level up till about the 8th grade level. And then there's a test that the children will take that, and that will determine whether or not they're even eligible from their test scores to pursue schooling beyond. And many times that schooling that they wish to pursue after that is paid for, has to be paid for. There's not many free options from that. Yes.
Both countries are Christian.
Yeah.
They advertise Christian.
Yeah.
Every school grade has a Bible class every day.
Yeah.
So it's significantly different here.
Yeah. And yeah.
They have plenty of problems, but they call themselves Christian.
In that ceremony, I mentioned that church planting that we did, that we went to the church dedication about 2.5 hours east of Nairobi in that rural area. In that 4-hour ceremony, a part of that was announcing the leaders or the elders and leaders within that church. One group was men, but then there was another group not called elders, but women leaders that were there to be nurturers and were announced before the church, and who those 5 women would be the leaders for that new church being established. And that I have not studied that, but they're
There's a lot of grandparents raising their grandchildren.
yeah.
There's a lot of them died in the middle from age.
Yeah.
When we went in 87, 88, Newsweek had a map of the AIDS problem in Africa, and there was a red circle right in the middle.
some of the discussion points that we got into with both in Kenya and in Zambia, and just on the plane rides, we talked to people on, and some of the same concerns as a parent raising children, technology, the cell phone, and the access to pornography and to identification fraud and trying to take your money electronically. Some of the same things that we are battling here in the U.S. They're battling with the same situations that. Yeah.
I'd like to say one more thing, sir. What I've been talking about in Zambia is old stuff from me and Joanne 36 years ago when we went over. And Namwanga is going strong. We're just sort of on the fringe of it. Great Commission School is our thing here. We're concentrating on that. It's following the same one, both of them are schools. I like to compare Namwanga is a lot like our university. We're helping young people. It's also a lot like Oklahoma Christian. So it's a great thing. Great Commission School is different, but it's just as great.
You have any other questions, anybody?
You can't hear it, but that's creating static with that. When you're playing with it.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, again, thank you guys for coming out tonight. I really appreciate this opportunity. And again, if really we're trying to inspire others to go, and don't be afraid we can put an itinerary together. But really, if we are able to get those Principal George and Michael Mutai their visas approved, that will actually be our probably our next opportunity to meet and greet them, and they would so appreciate that if we're able to establish that and probably host an event here from that standpoint, just enriching them that way.
Why is it so hard for them to get approved?
It's probably, my guess is that it's very, immigration is a hot topic. And I'm not for sure why Africa is scrutinized over other countries or not. I'll just leave it at that. So here's the other thing. I did not know this until I went, just before I went over. Oh, thank you. Can't see it. Up until President Trump and President Biden, neither of them have gone over to meet with the African leaders there. So in terms of that ability for embassies to approve visas and that whole process is, that's the process that they have to go through. So there's a limited number of visas that are authorized for them to visit. So that's about all I can say. He's been waiting at that. We've had Brian Mock and others make calls here using the Oklahoma and U.S. congressmen here to try to get that accomplished, and has not helped. So, but he's got an appointment, and so continue to pray that will be fulfilled and approved, and we'll be on our way. And one of the events is Red River Encampment. Might be one of those that we consider if they can get here in time and stuff like that. But we can talk further about that. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.